In November of 2024, Jennifer opened one checking account, canceled 4 credit cards, and set up a single automatic transfer of $200 per paycheck into a high-yield savings account. That was the entire system. 18 months later, she had $8,400 in cash savings and 0 credit card debt. Her coworker Maya tracked every penny across 3 different budgeting apps, rotated points between 5 rewards cards, and watched finance content every night. By March of 2026, Maya's net worth was negative $12,000. Same job title, same paycheck, same city in the Atlanta suburbs. The difference was minimalism. That word gets used a lot, but in finance, it means something specific. It means stripping your money system down to the smallest number of accounts, decisions, and obligations that still moves you forward. The reason this matters right now in 2026 is that the American financial environment has become hostile to complexity. The numbers tell the story without much help from me. According to Bankrate's 2026 Emergency Savings Report, 27% of U.S. adults have no emergency savings whatsoever, the highest figure ever recorded. 59% could not cover a $1,000 emergency expense from savings. The Federal Reserve's most recent SHED report still shows 37% of adults unable to handle a $400 emergency without borrowing or selling something. Total household debt sits at $18.8 trillion. Credit card balances hit $1.28 trillion. The average APR on cards accruing interest reached 22.30% in early 2026. That's roughly 3 times what a 30-year mortgage costs. Now here's the part nobody wants to say out loud. The people drowning in those numbers aren't the people without budgeting tools. They aren't the people who never read a personal finance book. They're often the most informed group. They have the apps, they follow the creators, they know the terminology, they've optimized their point strategy and their cashback stacks and their tax loss harvesting windows. And they're broke anyway. Because complexity in a high-cost, high-friction economy doesn't help you. It buries you. Minimalist money habits work differently. They reduce the surface area where you can fail. They lower the cognitive cost of every financial decision until those decisions stop requiring willpower at all. The 10 habits I'm walking through here aren't ranked by importance. They're sequenced by friction. You can implement them in order. By the end, you'll have something most Americans in 2026 don't have, which is a financial life that runs on its own. Habit number 1, build the one account foundation. Most financial systems start with the wrong question. They ask which accounts you should have. The better question is how few accounts you need to function. Open one checking account at a bank you actually like. Open one high-yield savings account at a different institution. That's it. Those 2 accounts are the entire foundation. In May of 2026, the top high-yield savings rates in the country are paying up to 5% APY at Varo Money, around 4.5% at SoFi, and roughly 4.21% at Axos Bank. The FDIC national average for traditional savings accounts is 0.38%. That's the gap. Money sitting in a traditional bank savings account is losing roughly 10 times the interest it should be earning every single year, automatically, while you do nothing about it. The reason this habit qualifies as minimalist is because it eliminates decisions. When you have one checking and one savings, there's no question about where money goes. Income lands in checking, a portion gets pushed to savings. Bills come out of checking. You don't shuffle balances between 3 accounts trying to optimize float. You don't forget which card is connected to which subscription. You don't open a brokerage savings account just because it offered a $100 bonus and then discover you've parked $5,000 in something paying 0.5%. The friction of multiple accounts taxes your attention. Attention is the resource that compounds your money or compounds your debt. Choose where to spend it. The setup takes one Saturday afternoon. Open the high-yield account online, set up the link to your checking, move whatever emergency cash you have into the savings. Close any other accounts you've forgotten about, which for most people includes at least one orphan account from a previous job, a college credit union, or an old Capital One promo. The friction of closing them feels significant until you do it. Then you wonder why you waited. Habit number 2, the pay yourself first inversion. The default financial sequence in America runs like this. Paycheck arrives, bills get paid, spending happens, savings receives whatever survives. The result is predictable. Savings receives almost nothing because spending naturally expands to fill available money. Parkinson's law applies to bank accounts. The minimalist inversion treats your savings transfer as a bill that must be paid first, before rent, before utilities, before groceries. The moment the paycheck deposits, an automatic transfer pulls a fixed amount out and into the high-yield savings account. Your remaining checking balance becomes your operating budget, and your lifestyle adjusts to that smaller number rather than expanding to consume the larger one. The reason this works is mechanical, not motivational. You're removing the decision point entirely. There's no monthly debate about how much to save. There's no temptation to skip a month because you want a new pair of running shoes. The transfer happens automatically the same way your gym membership gets pulled. By the time you check your balance, the money is already gone. Behavioral economists call this the friction principle. The harder it is to access money, the more likely it is to stay where it belongs. The easier it is to spend money, the more likely it is to disappear. A practical starting point is $50 to $100 per paycheck if money feels tight, or 10 to 15% of your gross income if money feels stable. The specific amount matters less than the consistency. Over 1 million American workers have accumulated more than $2 billion through state automatic IRA programs using exactly this mechanism. Automatic payroll deductions removed money before workers saw it. Those workers didn't decide to save. They decided once, 3 years ago, to set up the transfer. The savings happened automatically while they were busy living their lives. There's a version of this for retirement accounts that matters even more in 2026. The IRS raised the 401k contribution limit to $24,500 this year. The traditional and Roth IRA limit climbed to $7,500. If you're 50 or older, your 401k catch-up moves to $8,000, bringing your total cap to $32,500. These are the highest limits in American history. The minimalist habit is to set your 401k contribution rate once in your payroll system and forget it exists. The money never hits your checking account, you never see it, you never miss it. 20 years later, it's a retirement that runs itself. Habit number 3, the 24-hour purchase delay. Every non-essential purchase over $50 waits 24 hours before you make the decision. That's the whole habit. You put the item in the cart and walk away. You leave the store without it. You close the tab. If you still want it the next day, you buy it. If you don't, you delete the cart. That single delay eliminates roughly half of impulse purchases because most impulse purchases aren't about the item. They're about a momentary emotional state. Boredom, frustration, restlessness, social comparison after scrolling Instagram. The brain pairs that state with the item and demands immediate action. 24 hours is enough time for the emotional state to pass. The item remains. The desire usually doesn't. Retailers know this. Every checkout flow in 2026 is engineered to compress the window between desire and purchase. One-click ordering, saved payment methods, buy now, pay later options at every register. Apple Pay built into your phone screen. The friction has been removed by design. Your minimalist countermove is to add friction back. 24 hours is the simplest version. Some people use longer delays for larger purchases. A common pattern is 24 hours for anything over $50, 7 days for anything over $500, and 30 days for anything over $5,000. The dollar thresholds adjust to your income. The mechanism stays the same. What this habit actually saves you isn't dramatic in any single month. It might be $60 or $80 saved on impulse purchases you would otherwise have made. The cumulative effect compounds in two directions. The direct money saved goes into savings or investments. The indirect effect is even larger. Your relationship with consumption changes. You stop browsing for entertainment. You stop treating shopping apps like social media. You start identifying as someone who buys deliberately rather than reactively. That identity shift is worth more over 20 years than any single purchase you avoided. Habit number 4, the subscription death list. Open your last 3 months of bank and credit card statements. Highlight every recurring charge. Streaming services, gym memberships, software subscriptions, cloud storage, premium app upgrades, meal kit deliveries, magazine renewals, photo editing tools, language learning apps, the second streaming service you forgot you had, the third one you signed up for during a free trial in 2024. List all of them with their monthly amounts. Add them up. That total is the number most Americans don't want to see. The average household in 2026 pays for between 11 and 15 recurring subscriptions, totaling somewhere between $200 and $300 per month. A meaningful portion of those subscriptions get used rarely or never. The subscription economy is engineered around exactly this. Auto-renewal happens silently. Cancellation requires effort. Most services bury the cancel button 3 menus deep. Some require phone calls during business hours. The friction is intentional. Your minimalist response is to spend one Sunday afternoon canceling everything you don't actively use weekly. Not monthly, weekly. If you haven't opened the app or watched the service in the past 7 days, cancel it. You can always resubscribe later. The annoyance of resubscribing is the test of whether you actually wanted it. A reasonable household keeps maybe 3 to 5 active subscriptions. One streaming service that handles most of what you watch. One music or audiobook service if you actually use it daily. One cloud storage plan. A gym membership if you go more than twice a week. Everything else is fat. Cutting that fat consistently saves the average household between $60 and $120 per month. Over a year, that's $1,500. Invested in a high-yield savings account at 4%, it compounds to roughly $18,000 over 20 years. Just from canceling subscriptions you weren't using anyway. Habit number 5, the 2-card maximum. Carry one credit card. Keep one as a backup. Cancel everything else or freeze the cards and put them somewhere you can't easily access. The personal finance content economy has spent a decade convincing Americans that strategic credit card optimization is the path to free flights and hotel stays. For a small group of disciplined high spenders, that's true. For everyone else, it's a trap. The numbers explain why. The average American carried a credit card balance of $6,595 at the start of 2026, according to Federal Reserve data. The average APR on cards accruing interest reached 22.30%. New credit card offers averaged 23.79%. A $6,500 balance at that rate, paying only the minimum, takes over 7 years to pay off and costs roughly $3,600 in interest. That's the math you're competing with. Every reward point you earn is being shadowed by an APR that will eat the value if you carry a balance for even a few months. 55% of credit card balances in 2026 are covering essentials: groceries, rent, healthcare, utilities, not vacations, not luxury items. People are using credit cards to bridge the gap between income and basic survival, and they're paying 22% for the privilege. The minimalist version is one card with reasonable rewards, paid in full every month, no exceptions. One backup card in case the primary is lost or compromised. That's the entire system. You don't chase sign-up bonuses, you don't open new accounts to game your credit utilization, you don't transfer balances between cards trying to outrun the interest. The simplicity of this approach feels almost embarrassing compared to the elaborate optimization strategies promoted online. But the people running those strategies are usually losing money to interest and fees in ways they don't track. The two-card maximum forces you to live within your income because there's no easy way to spread spending across multiple cards. Your spending becomes visible to yourself. Habit number 6, the capsule spending identity. The average American spends approximately $1,800 annually on clothing, according to Bureau of Labor Statistics data. Much of that clothing gets worn a handful of times before being donated, discarded, or forgotten in a closet. Fast fashion has manufactured the expectation of constant rotation. Social media has manufactured the expectation that outfits should not repeat. The pressure to look different every day is expensive and culturally engineered. The minimalist counter is the capsule wardrobe. Build a small set of pieces that fit well, work together, and last years. Then, stop buying clothes. The deeper principle here applies far beyond clothing. The capsule wardrobe approach can be applied to your kitchen, where you cook the same 15 meals on rotation and stop wasting groceries. It can be applied to your social calendar, where you keep 3 or 4 reliable hangout spots instead of trying every new restaurant. It can be applied to your travel, where you return to places you love rather than chasing novel destinations every trip. The principle is reduction of decision-making in exchange for predictable enjoyment. The financial impact compounds across categories. Capsule wardrobe households save roughly $1,200 annually on clothing. Kitchen rotation reduces grocery waste, which the USDA estimates Americans throw away at a rate of 30 to 40% of purchased food, costing an average family of 4 roughly $1,500 annually. Restaurant simplification saves a few hundred more by replacing exploration with familiarity. The total impact across these categories often exceeds $3,000 per year for an average household. $3,000 saved annually, invested at a 7% average return, compounds to roughly $140,000 over 20 years. What capsule thinking really gives you is something that doesn't show up in spreadsheets. It's the absence of decision fatigue. You spend less mental energy on what to wear, what to eat, where to go. That mental energy gets redirected toward work, family, or whatever produces actual income and meaning in your life. The financial savings are real, but the cognitive savings might matter more. Habit number 7, the boring index fund strategy. The investing world spent the last 15 years convincing retail investors that they should be picking individual stocks, trading options, swapping into cryptocurrency at the right moment, or buying into themed ETFs based on whatever sector the news is hyping that quarter. The data on retail investor performance is clear and uncomfortable. The average retail investor underperforms the broad market by several percentage points per year, primarily due to transaction timing, emotional selling during downturns, and chasing past performance. The minimalist alternative is so simple it feels wrong to even mention as a strategy. Buy a low-cost total market index fund or S&P 500 index fund. Add money to it every month. Don't sell. Continue for 20 to 40 years. That's the entire strategy. No timing the market, no watching financial news, no reacting to whatever Jerome Powell said at the Fed meeting, no buying the latest themed ETF based on artificial intelligence or biotechnology. The minimalist investor opens a brokerage account, sets up an automatic monthly transfer into 1 or 2 broad index funds with expense ratios under 0.1%, and treats the account like a black box for the next several decades. They open the app twice a year. The market goes up, the market goes down. They keep buying. The boring nature of the approach is exactly what makes it work. In 2026, this strategy is more accessible than it has ever been. The 401k contribution limit is $24,500. Roth IRA contributions are limited to $7,500 for those under 50. Most major brokerages offer commission-free trades on index funds. Vanguard's VTI, Fidelity's FZROX, and Schwab's SWTSX all give you broad market exposure for almost nothing in fees. A person making $60,000 per year who contributes 10% to a 401k and adds another $2,000 to a Roth IRA every year, both invested in broad market index funds, builds a retirement account worth roughly $600,000 over 30 years, assuming average historical returns. That's without any stock picking, without any market timing, without any of the work that financial entertainment content tells you matters. The hardest part of this habit isn't the math, it's the boredom. Watching index funds appreciate slowly over decades is genuinely uninteresting compared to the daily drama of individual stocks. The boredom is the feature, not the bug. The strategies that feel exciting are usually the ones quietly losing money. Habit number 8, the bill reduction hour. Once a year, block out 2 hours. Open your phone bill, your internet bill, your cable or streaming bundle, your auto insurance, your home or renter's insurance, and your credit card annual fees. Call each provider. Ask one question. What's the best rate you can give me right now, considering I've been a customer for X years and I'm comparing options? Then wait. Most companies have retention departments specifically empowered to lower your rate to keep you. They lower it because they'd rather keep your business at a reduced margin than lose you entirely. The savings from this single annual ritual are larger than most people expect. The average household in 2026 can typically reduce auto insurance by 10 to 20% simply by switching or threatening to switch. Phone bills can be reduced by 20 to 40% by negotiating or moving to a budget carrier like Visible, Mint Mobile, or US Mobile. Internet bills can often be reduced by 15 to 30% through retention offers. Annual fees on credit cards can frequently be waived. Across these categories, the typical annual savings run between $400 and $1,000 for a single hour or two of work. That's an hourly rate few people earn in their actual jobs, and the savings continue automatically for the next 12 months. The minimalist version of this habit reduces it to a single annual calendar event. Put it on your calendar in January every year, the same way you might schedule a dentist appointment. Block 2 hours, make the calls. Then forget about it until the next year. The friction that prevents most people from doing this is the discomfort of negotiating, which is genuinely uncomfortable for many people. The fix is to remember that the person on the other end of the line negotiates rates all day. They're not surprised by your call. They're paid to respond to it. Your discomfort lasts 90 seconds. Their discount lasts 12 months. Habit number 9, the daily money minute. 60 seconds every morning, you check 3 numbers: your checking account balance, your credit card balance, your savings or investment balance. That's it. No analysis, no spreadsheet update, no mood spiral about whether you're falling behind. Just observation. Look at the 3 numbers. Close the app, continue your day. The reason this works has almost nothing to do with the numbers themselves. It's about ending the avoidance pattern that creates most financial damage. People who struggle financially share one consistent behavior, which is not looking at their accounts. They avoid checking the balance because they don't want to confront what they'll find. The avoidance protects them from short-term discomfort, but enables the exact behaviors that make the long-term situation worse. The debt grows, the savings stagnate, the stress increases, the avoidance deepens, the cycle continues. The Daily Money Minute breaks the cycle by normalizing financial awareness without requiring any action. After a few weeks of daily observation, the numbers lose their emotional charge. They become information rather than judgment. Your brain stops treating account balances like emotionally loaded data and starts treating them like the speedometer in your car. You glance at it. You make a decision about your pace. You move on. This emotional neutrality enables clear thinking about financial decisions throughout the day. The lunch out becomes a different decision when you've just seen your checking balance. The impulse subscription sign-up feels different when you've just seen your savings balance. The connection between micro decisions and macro outcomes becomes immediate rather than abstract. Start tomorrow morning. 60 seconds. 3 numbers. No analysis required. The habit becomes automatic within 2 weeks. By month 2, it requires no willpower. By month 6, you'll notice yourself making different spending decisions throughout the day without remembering why. Habit number 10, the single goal rule. The personal finance content economy is engineered to convince you that you should be working on multiple financial goals simultaneously. Build an emergency fund, pay off credit card debt, max your 401k, save for a down payment, start a brokerage account, build passive income, pay extra on the mortgage, save for college, start a side hustle. Each goal gets framed as urgent. The collective effect is paralysis. Most people end up half pursuing 6 goals at once, which means none of them get the focus required to actually move the needle. The minimalist version pursues 1 goal at a time. The sequence that works for most people in 2026 runs like this. Goal 1 is a starter emergency fund of $1,000 in cash. Everything else waits. Goal 2 is paying off any credit card balance with an interest rate above 10%. Everything else still waits. Goal 3 is building a full emergency fund of 3 to 6 months of expenses. Goal 4 is contributing enough to your 401k to capture any employer match. Goal 5 is maxing out a Roth IRA if you qualify. Goal 6 is maxing your 401k contribution beyond the match. Goal 7 is investing in a taxable brokerage account or saving for major purchases like a house. Goals beyond that point are individual to your situation. What single goal focus produces is acceleration. Working on one goal exclusively means your savings rate toward that goal is much higher than it would be if you were splitting it across 5 competing priorities. A person earning $70,000 per year who decides credit card debt is the only goal until it's gone can often eliminate $8,000 in debt within 12 months. That same person spreading equivalent effort across 6 goals might pay down $2,000 of debt in the same year while making marginal progress on 5 other priorities. The total wealth impact is dramatically different. Focus is leverage. Splitting focus across goals divides leverage among them. The psychological benefit matters too. Completing a goal produces momentum. The person who paid off the credit card now believes they can build the emergency fund. The person spreading effort across 6 unfinished goals never gets to feel the satisfaction of completion. The momentum from completed goals is what carries you through the long stretches of slow progress later. Now here's where the compounding becomes interesting. Assume you implement these 10 habits over a 6-month period, 1 habit at a time. By month 7, all 10 are operating in the background. Estimate the combined annual impact at the conservative end. The One Account Foundation saves you $50 annually in fees and earns roughly $400 in interest. Pay Yourself First redirects $2,400 annually into savings. The 24-hour rule prevents roughly $800 in impulse purchases. The subscription audit eliminates $100 in monthly waste, $1,200 annually. The 2-card maximum prevents roughly $500 in interest charges. The Capsule spending identity saves $3,000 across wardrobe, food, and entertainment. The index fund strategy redirects whatever you're investing into broad market funds rather than underperforming alternatives, potentially adding 2% in annual returns. The bill reduction hour saves $700. The Daily Money Minute prevents an estimated $1,000 in unconscious spending. The single goal rule accelerates whatever you're working on by a factor of 2 to 3. Add it together. The combined direct savings and avoided losses approach $10,000 to $12,000 annually for an average household. Direct that $10,000 into a broad market index fund every year for 20 years at a 7% average return. You finish that 20-year period with roughly $410,000. That's the wealth produced by stripping your financial life down to almost nothing. No side hustles, no house flipping, no crypto, no options trading, just 10 boring habits running automatically while you live your life. Now here's the part that doesn't show up in the math. People who implement these habits Develop an identity as someone who builds wealth. That identity shift matters more than any specific tactic because identity drives behavior automatically. When someone identifies as a wealth builder, spending decisions become easier. The question changes from, can I afford this? To, does this align with who I am? The wealth builder identity makes frugality feel natural rather than restrictive. It makes investing feel inevitable rather than aspirational. It makes financial progress feel like the default state rather than something requiring constant effort. This identity formation happens through daily action. Each automatic transfer reinforces it. Each canceled subscription confirms it. Each declined impulse purchase deepens it. Each morning money minute renews it. After roughly 100 days of these habits operating consistently, you are no longer someone trying to build wealth. You are someone who builds wealth. The distinction seems subtle, but proves transformational. People with wealth builder identity don't need motivation to continue. They don't struggle with consistency. They don't abandon the habits when life gets difficult. The habits express who they are rather than what they're attempting. The identity carries the behavior automatically. Most people watching this video will do nothing. They'll find some of these ideas interesting. They'll mentally agree with the principles. Then they'll continue their existing patterns. A year from now, they'll be in roughly the same financial position they're in today. A smaller percentage will pick one habit, the first one that seems easiest, and start it tomorrow. They'll add a second habit a few weeks later. They'll add the third. A year from now, they'll have accumulated thousands of dollars and developed an identity as someone who builds wealth. 5 years from now, the gap between those two groups will be measurable in tens of thousands of dollars. 20 years from now, it'll be measurable in hundreds of thousands. What I want you to do right now isn't ambitious. Pick one habit from this list, just one, the easiest one, the one with the least resistance. Implement only that one starting tomorrow. Don't try to implement all 10 this week. The slow build proves faster in the long run because habits that stick beat habits that fail. There's something I want to be honest about before I let you go. These 10 habits work because they sit on top of something more fundamental, which is basic financial literacy. The framework of knowing what an interest rate actually means, understanding what compound growth does over time, recognizing the difference between an asset and a liability, knowing how taxes work on retirement accounts versus brokerage accounts, understanding why your credit score affects mortgage rates and how much that difference compounds across a 30-year loan. These habits I described are downstream of that foundation. Without the foundation, the habits feel arbitrary. With the foundation, they feel obvious. If you're starting a financial journey in 2026 and you've never really sat down with the underlying principles, the habits I just walked you through will still help you, but they'll help you more, and they'll feel more natural if you also understand why each one works mechanically. Financial literacy is the part most people skip because it sounds dry. It's also the part that prevents the expensive mistakes that take years to recover from. The mistakes that come from not knowing how variable APR works, from not understanding how 401k vesting schedules can affect job decisions, from not realizing that the rent versus buy calculation isn't as simple as the price of the mortgage versus the price of the rent. The Financial Literacy Foundation is where every wealthy person started, even when they don't talk about it that way. There's a video on this channel called Financial Literacy that I made specifically as the starting point for this kind of journey. If you're newer to all of this and you want to feel grounded before you start implementing habits, that one walks through the foundational concepts in a way that connects to everything we just discussed. It's the piece that makes everything else here actually stick. Worth watching first if you haven't already. These 10 minimalist habits are powerful, but they work best when they're built on top of understanding rather than mimicry. Build the foundation, then build the habits. Then watch what happens over the next 10 years to someone who chose simplicity in an economy that punishes complexity. The compounding is patient. It's also relentless. That's the work.